Yeah, everybody, back on the Deutscher 280 lawnmower today. So you'll remember from last time that we got the engine going, had it running, picked up a few things we needed to do, and still haven't got the deck, so we can't cut and we can't drive. So we're going to try and work on that today, as well as replacing some of those parts on the engine. I'm going to change the engine oil, going to fill the diff oil up, and hopefully get it moving. And then once we've got it moving, we'll drain the oil. We'll check it and drain the oil again. Got a new air filter, got a new spark plug, got a new fuel line and a fuel filter. I ordered a carby kit for it, but it's got to come in, so we won't do that today. But we can do a fair bit of other stuff and hopefully get this thing moving under its own power. So we'll get right into it. Rightio, first thing we're going to chuck in is a new air filter. And it's got a new outer foam sleeve as well. So hopefully this one fits a little bit better than the other one did, because it didn't. That was why there was so much crap in the carby, because it wasn't sealing properly. So dirt could get in and under the air filter and straight into the carby. That's seated on there properly, so it should be fully sealed now, and we shouldn't get any more dirt and dust going into the carby, hopefully, and that should resolve a couple of problems. Right, next thing we're going to do is fill up this transmission or diff, whatever they call it. Because as you remember last time, this dipstick was stuck in there, pulled it out, and there was pretty much nothing on it. I think there is the tiniest little bit of oil on the very end of the dipstick, but yeah, it is definitely low. So I'm going to overfill this and let this fully soak in to whatever's in there. Hopefully that'll get in around all the gears and everything, and we don't have any dramas. We'll fill it, yeah, and then once we get this running, if we can, we'll drive it around a bit, warm it up, and drain all that oil back out and top it up, fill it up again with fresh stuff, and hopefully that'll get rid of any rubbish that's in there. So this takes an 80W90 gear oil. And because of that, it's going to be very slow to fill. I think that might be just about full. It only took about half a litre. It's only a very small case that it's got to fill, so I think it might even be well over full. Yeah, it's definitely over full. That's fine. We're also replacing the fuel line. As you remember, I said it was leaking in the last one, and that was just from me pulling it off the tank, bottom of the tank there, it's all ripping apart. So you can see it's pretty old fuel line, so it definitely needs some new stuff. So I'll make up the correct length and we'll put the fuel filter in it as well. Bought a new one of those and hook it all back up to the carby. Rightio, new fuel line is on with a new fuel filter. It just wraps around the back to the fuel tank. So hopefully that'll be all sealed and won't have any more fuel leaks. So we'll chuck a bit of fuel in there and make sure that it's all sweet. There we go, it's filled the fuel filter up. Nice and clean fuel. So that should be all good now. Right, also bought a new muffler. I'll show you when I get it off, if I can get it off. There's a hole in the top and it's blowing hot fumes straight onto the inlet manifold, which you don't want. So we're going to try and get it off. Hopefully the bolts don't snap. I have sprayed a heap of CRC on it, so hopefully that helps. I think I'm going to strip these before we get them off. There we go, got him off. This is no doubt the original. And that is the hole I was talking about. It's rusted through. So it's just blowing hot exhaust fumes straight out. So yeah, and this heat shield's a little bit not secured anymore, so new muffler will hopefully sort that out. Right, new muffler is installed. Look at that, wowee. So we'll move on to the final part we're going to replace, today anyway, spark plug. Which means I've got to undo the engine mounts again, lift it up to get that spark plug back out. Bit of a pain in the ass, but yeah, sort of is what it is. I guess this bar does protect you from backing into something and breaking it, but you would think they would have made a bolt on. So anyway, we'll pull that out, chuck the new one in. So once again, I've undone the engine mount bolts and pried up the engine a little bit. We'll undo the spark plug. Yeah, so a little bit, it's not too dirty from when we ran it last time. But yeah, better off just putting a new one in. I'm hoping the new one is the same. Right, new one's slightly longer, so hopefully that doesn't affect it too much. It fits in there alright still. Yeah, it should be fine. Alright, slightly, it's got a different size head on it, so it made it a little bit more difficult to do it up. But hopefully that is the least of our problems. So I'll mount all this back down and then we'll fire it up again, let the engine oil warm up, and then we'll drain the engine oil. See what it's saying. I had some trauma starting that back up. I'll just say that's the carby. Still probably gummed up with a bit of crap from when we cleaned it. So did get it firing in the end and running as same, but we'll still have to rebuild that carby and make sure it's perfectly clean. Get anything that got sucked in out of it, so it all runs. So now that's warmed up, we'll drain the engine oil. Once we've done that, the engine is now done, other than the carby. And then we'll move on to trying to make it drive. That's the next step. Oh yeah, she is very dirty. There's definitely some metal in there. That is not good. Don't know if you'll be able to tell, there's a little few specks of metal. Don't know if that's bearing material, hoping not. Hopefully this is just the case as the oil hasn't been changed for so long and there's just a lot of stuff getting caught in it from over the years. But there is 100% metal in the oil. Alright, we're looking under the mower currently. So looking at why it you can't engage the drive. So this up here is where the drive belt is, and this part here has to slide up and down to increase tension on the belt. The belt runs in there, so the tighter that belt squeezes together, the faster the mower will drive. And for some reason it's not going up or down. So I might disconnect the linkage there and try and drop all that down, see if I can pull this bottom part of the pulley apart and clean it all out, and that might resolve the issue. So this is the lever we're looking at up here, which is your speed. So it does move a little bit, but not all the way. Disconnected this lever here, which is the handbrake or the brake on the wheels. That's fully seized, so that was stopping that one from moving. And this is the forward reverse, which is currently now moving just after a little bit of fiddling. So it's got forward, reverse and neutral. That should be in neutral there at the moment. So if we try and take this little arm off here, that should hopefully allow us to drop all that bottom stuff off underneath. Right, so I disconnected that linkage, and that has come down here just on this swinging arm. So as you can see, that's where it holds underneath this bearing or bearing housing. You can see how it's meant to push up and down to increase the tension, but it doesn't seem to come off. I'm not quite sure what stops it coming off, if there's a bolt or grub screw in it somewhere. That's just a grease nipple there. So I'm gonna just have a bit of a fiddle around and yeah, see what I can work out about how exactly it's meant to go all the way up. Right, we're still mucking around here at the back. I've pulled this back plate off for a little bit better access. I think I may have worked out what my issue is. So this is what the variable drive is here. There's the belt. When you squeeze that together, because of the way these two pulleys are angled, the belt will run out further. The further it runs out, the faster the differential will drive. So when you're pulling the lever, it squeezes them, makes it tighter, the belt expands. I think the problem is it needs to be running so that that belt, when you squeeze this, is actually pulling out further towards the outside when it's spinning around in a circle. I reckon that's why I can't engage the gear any higher up. I pulled the bracket off that stops this bottom bearing spinning, and I'll also be able to grease it a bit easier now that I've got it all apart. So I'll give this a grease and put the linkages back together. We'll try and start it up again and see if I can engage it when it's running, and hopefully it'll drive. We'll find out though. Greased this bearing here, and I've put the bracket back on, or the linkage that pushes up and down on the gear. So hopefully if we run it, it should hopefully squeeze together on this belt and run it out, make the belt run wider, and then that increases your speed. Hopefully it works when it's running, because I think that might be the issue, trying to push it together when it's not running. You're not actually moving the belt, you're just trying to crush the belt, so it doesn't really work. So that's all being greased and everything. So yeah, we'll put the back plate back on this and yeah, free up a couple other things and try and drive it. Alright, so I've put the back plate on the engine and connected this rod back up to the gear. It's not really a gear selector, it's more of a variator. And that was why I thought, yeah, it's jamming up, because I couldn't get it past 2. It's 5 speeds apparently. But yeah, I think the engine has to be running so that belt will expand and you can push all the way down. So you can get it into 1 all right, and you can almost get it to 2, and you can obviously put it into brake. So that's all freed up. This is the gear selection lever, so this is forward and reverse. So that's loosened up, which is good. And then this rod comes back up to the gear selector again and goes to this shaft here, which is basically your handbrake or your brake. It runs all the way to the other side. There's another one of these rods, but it's frozen solid, so we're going to have to try and free that up so that we have some sort of brake, and so that we can put it back onto the selector arm up here. So we'll try and loosen that up. We may have to get the oxy out and heat this up a little bit, but we'll try and get a shifter or something on there and give it a few whacks with the hammer and see if we can break it free. Right, we've freed it up quite a bit. See what it's like on here. We may need to adjust this rod to the correct position to actually make it work. Alright, that's on the brake there and that's jamming it on. You loosen it. That's taking it off the brake. So if it's on one, it is just clearing the brake, which is hopefully going to be enough. We can adjust it on this rod here if we need to, but I think we'll just leave it like that for the moment. Put the brake back on. Cool. Seeing as we've got the grease gun out, we'll go around and grease everything. Rightio, that's everything grazed, other than the drive pulley for the rotor, for the blades. But we aren't worried about that yet because we want to make sure it drives. So we've still got to unstick the deck lift gear, which I don't know how we're going to go with that. It might be a bit of a bugger. But everything else is grazed, so we'll take it off the blocks, drop it on the ground, start the engine back up, and see if it'll drive. Hopefully it does. Installed it. Sort of a bit of a pain because the throttle handle's behind you, so you can't really tell what you're doing. seems you can't just give it too much juice and hope for the best. see that it drives and struggles. I don't know if it's my fat ass, too much fruit. It only goes into about second gear and then it wants to die, so I don't know how we'll get it to fifth. I don't know if it's because the belt's too tight or what, but it's driving. Now that we know that it drives, let's see if we can get it to cut. Struggling to power. there's still a little bit of work to do, so we'll drive it back over to the workshop and pull a bit more stuff off. Right, so it drives and it cuts. It doesn't have much power though. I don't know if that's my fat ass weighing it down or if it's just the engine's a bit old. Most likely. It struggles to cut. I was in about first gear, so I think we're gonna have to do a little bit of work, loosening a few things up. It might be struggling just because everything's a bit seized, hasn't been used in a long time. I'm hoping that's the issue. So we'll pull this cover off to get to the grease point for the pulley, clean all everything under there. We've got to pull the steering arm off, which is not too hard. It's just that grub screw down there undoes, and then this should just slide straight out. And then there's just a couple of bolts that hold this bonnet on. So we'll rip that off, have a look what's under there, and try and loosen up the deck height and the engage for the cutter. Hey?
Would you get a Honda then?
Yeah.
What do the new Deutschers got on them?
What?
What do the new ones have on them?
Honda. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Honda probably. Oh, you can't.
Did it just break?
Yeah. Excuse my language there. I just snapped the end of the grub screw off, but it was luckily enough to be able to get this bloody steering arm out, so yeah. We now have no steering. Oh yeah, here's the drive. Here's your drive belt and pulley. She's pretty rusty on it. And that just slides it forward and increases tension on the belt, and then that drives. So we'll find the grease point, which I think is just there. Give it a graze. And yeah. There's Evercrow getting stuck underneath this arm and spring here, which helps lower and raise the deck. So I've cleared all that out to see if that'll help make it a bit easier. It is loosening up. Rightio, so everything is now freed up. It drives, it technically cuts. but it's stalling. Broke the grub screw off this little steering arm. Managed to get that steering bar, or whatever you want to call it, out, so I can pull that bonnet off, put it back on just for the time being. So I'll have to I'll just drill a new hole in this and tap it, run a new bolt to fix that. That'll be a job for another day, and wait for that carby kit to come here. So hopefully with the carby kit that'll stop it stalling. You put it into third and it just seems to want to die. And I'm not sure if that's just because the belt is so tight you're not actually meant to be able to use all the gears. It's just whatever keeps the right amount of pressure on that to keep you moving. Not too sure. If anybody's got one of these, let me know. Yeah, so still a little bit more work to do on it, but main thing is it drives, rotor's all moving, now the mechanisms are all freed up and moving, which is good. The negative things at the moment is how much metal is through the engine oil. I've checked the dipstick again, there's still some sparkly stuff on it, which isn't good. And there's a little bit of sparkly stuff on the dipstick in the diff, but we'll drain that out once we get it moving a bit more and whatever. Put some fresh stuff in there, that's not too big of a deal. But hopefully that engine isn't knackered and we can still save it. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching everybody, and I'll catch you in the next one.